Hello and welcome back to Living Abroad. Today we're going to talk about some serious accusations, some wild stories coming from Philippines airports about passengers claiming that airport staff damaged their passports purposely to prevent them from traveling. When I first heard the story, I kind of ignored it, thought fake news. Then I heard a second person say the same thing online. Then when I heard the third story and Cebu Pacific came out released an official statement, I knew there was something to it. Here are the stories. We'll talk about it right after. Someone online says what was supposed to be a beautiful, long-awaited family vacation to Bali, Indonesia, turned into a heartbreaking, stressful, and honestly infuriating ordeal. All thanks to the way Cebu Pacific handled our situation. Let me tell you what happened because until now, I still can't believe it. When we arrived at the airport, we went straight to pay our travel tax. It went smoothly and there were no issues whatsoever with our passports. Then we headed to check-in counter A19 and handed over all our passports. The ground staff checked them one by one, but when she got to my 78-year-old elderly father's passport, she paused and asked if he had seen the small tear on it before. We were completely confused. We had never noticed it. It was a tiny tear, barely noticeable, likely just from normal wear and tear, nothing that ever raised a red flag in the past. She took photos of the passport and told us to wait, saying she would send it to immigration in Bali to confirm if it would still be accepted. We waited and waited. Almost 30 minutes passed and still nothing. When we asked about the problem her response to us was, quote, "If I give you a boarding pass and lose my job, what will I feed my children? I'm suspended for 14 days. That hit hard. It felt like emotional manipulation. It was unprofessional and incredibly stressful, especially since this involved a senior citizen. We were stuck, trying to stay calm and trying not to cause delays, but deeply frustrated. She told us to wait until 2 a.m. since it was taking too much time. My aunt went to the senior citizen check-in counter, and guess what? My dad was issued a boarding pass. Within minutes, finally some relief. We proceeded to immigration, and the immigration staff then confirmed the tear was normal wear and tear, and that the passport was valid. At gate 102, we waited to board, but there was no announcement that the gate had changed to gate 111. We only found out last minute and ran to the new gate. When we got there, the ground staff at the boarding gate blocked us, saying my father couldn't board because we didn't return to counter A19. It was even the same staff from earlier. It was a team at the boarding gate, but it was clear they had been tipped off probably by the staff at A19 because they even asked, why didn't you go back to counter A19? As if we were expected to go back, even though my dad had already been issued a valid boarding pass by another Cebu Pacific counter. It didn't make sense, and I felt like they were just looking for reasons to block him from boarding. They refused to let him through, even though he had cleared immigration and was officially checked in. In the end, Dad didn't get on board the plane. It was heartbreaking to leave my dad behind. I had booked beautiful hotels and planned special activities for him to relax and enjoy, and just like that, he was left behind. He had to go through immigration again just to go home, utterly disappointed and disheartened. But wait, it gets worse. At immigration, when my dad had to go back, the officers were shocked. They confirmed again the passport was fine and just showed normal wear. They even called Cebu Pacific supervisor who agreed and radioed the boarding gate to wait, saying a senior citizen was on the way to board and that my father's passport was okay and valid for takeoff. But the boarding gate staff still refused to wait and said the plane was already leaving. Just like that, my father was left behind. It was such a painful moment. I can't describe the helplessness and anger we all felt. This wasn't just about the passport. This was about poor coordination, lack of compassion, and power-tripping staff who refused to listen, even when their higher supervisor gave them the go-ahead. And honestly, some thoughts have been haunting me since. What if the flight was actually overbooked and my father was just the one they chose not to board? Or worse, what if the tear wasn't even there to begin with? What if someone handling the documents caused it? Please, next time you travel, never leave your passport unattended. Always take photos and show them clearly that there's nothing wrong with your passport. You never know what excuse they'll pull just to deny you boarding. Absolutely insane. There were two other stories. I'm not going to read them. Basically, both other people also claimed that their passport had tears on the main page, even though they were certain there was nothing wrong with their passport. There's a lot to get into, which I will in a second. But first, let's read what Cebu Pacific's response was. Cebu Pacific has addressed the recent incident involving a passenger who was denied boarding due to minor tear in his passport, emphasizing the importance of passport integrity in international travel. The airline responded to a viral social media post where a passenger expressed concern over her elderly father being barred from a flight to Bali because of the passport damage. In a statement, Cebu Pacific acknowledged the distress caused and noted that multiple attempts to reach the affected passengers have gone unanswered. We understand how distressing this experience may be, the airline stated. We've made several attempts to reach the passengers to better understand the situation and explore how we can improve our process. However, we have yet to receive a response. Cebu Pacific stressed the importance of complying with international travel regulations, particularly on passport integrity. Quote, even a minor tear or any unauthorized marking may be considered a damaged passport by foreign immigration authorities, which can lead to denied boarding or entry to the intended international destination, the airline explained. And then they went ahead and made a full statement basically saying you can't have a damaged or teared passport. How they contacted Indonesia and were told that no, they cannot enter with that kind of passport. There's a lot to talk about there as well, but let's read the last official released statement from DOTR. The Philippines Department of Transportation warned airlines against any deliberate tampering of passengers' passports, saying such actions will lead to sanctions. The passenger has since filed a complaint with the Civil Aeronautics Board. The DOTR also reminded travelers to ensure the passports are valid and in good conditions before flying. First thing I want to say, nobody is disputing that you should not travel with a damaged passport. When you have 3 people coming out saying that airport staff purposely damaged their passport, and I'm very proud of that one woman that went all the way through and filed a complaint officially with the aeronautics departments. It says a lot, obviously. So this is a serious matter. And I also want to mention a couple other things. It's really difficult to try to understand why somebody would do this purposely. The only thing I see is basically either, I don't even know, like extortion, try to get some money, because we know there's been other types of situations at the airports in the Philippines. It's not very good for the image of your country, especially when your airport continuously ranks as the worst international airport. And you have other situations that we all know by now. I've covered a lot on the Asia Now channel. The airport, the image is very bad. You don't want something like this to damage it even worse. Plus, as a Filipino citizen, it's not easy to gather your family, save enough money, plan a trip. You know, the government doesn't make it very easy to travel sometimes. You got to pay taxes. You got to prove a whole bunch of stuff. So this trip was probably something very important to her and her family, and it's just obviously not right from a human level, right? And it seemed like only Filipino passports are being damaged, but depending on, or it doesn't matter which country you're from, it's important to always be aware of the condition of your passport. I would recommend, honestly, for the next couple days, if you're traveling, take a picture or video of your passport, make sure it's completely fine. I just recently was at the airport in in Cebu, and I was watching the girl like a hawk while she was handling my passport, because I saw this last week. So I'm like, she better not try to do nothing. Of course, let's not overreact. Like, most likely she wasn't going to, but it's difficult to just ignore it, right? So it's important as travelers that we kind of be aware of who's handling our passports. I just think it's not good, because the Philippines has beautiful places, wonderful people, and it's really bad when you get a handful of people, and also you're like, that basically damage the reputation of the whole country, because it's only the negative stories that get really highlighted. I'm making this video to keep you up to date, to keep you posted, and make you aware, whether you're a foreigner or a Filipino person, please don't let somebody ruin your travels. Keep an eye on your passport. I hope this doesn't become like a bigger thing, because if I was this person, I would not let it go if that happened to me. And I'm proud of her, because they need to check CCTV footage. They got to make sure that she actually called Indonesia, as she claimed, and that she didn't do anything that basically ruined this girl's trip. So that's what's going on. I wanted you guys to be aware of it. What do you guys think of the situation? Do you think it's just a few people, a few bad apples, one individual? And this doesn't help the image or the stereotype of like Filipino crab mentality here sometimes, because this is a beautiful place, beautiful people, just a few people that really make everything really bad. And that's it for this video. Thank you for watching. I'll see you guys in our next video with regular interviews. Bye.